Oh, fancy seeing you there. Do you guys want to learn about the layers of the heart? First, we have this outer layer called the peri or epicardium. Epi meaning upon. Then we're going to open up the heart and go to the muscular layer that you can see all right here. It is called myocardium. Myo meaning muscle, cardium referring to the heart. Then we're going to go inside the structures of the heart, and everything covering the inner surfaces of the heart is called endocardium. You can see it in all of these places. Next, we have the chambers of the heart. These two chambers located at the top are the right atria and the left atria. You can see the right atria, if we open up right here, it's all this space inside. And then if we flip it over to the back side, you can see the left atria right here, all of this inside. Atria have two structures that make them unique. First are the auricles. We have the right auricle right here and the left auricle right here. Auricle is referring to the ear-like structure that is going to allow for expansion of the heart. We then open up the chambers and can see these crisscross bars of muscle. These are called pectinate, and they will exist in the auricles of both the right atria and the left atria. Next, we move down to the lower chambers of the heart. On this side, we have the right ventricle, and on this side, we have the left ventricle. If we open this up, we can see that the right ventricle is going to be slightly smaller than the left ventricle, which is slightly larger. Inside of the ventricles, we have a structure similar to pectinate, except in this case, it's called trabeculae carneae, and it's these crisscross bars that cover all the internal walls of the ventricles. Separating the ventricles, we have this wall-like structure called the interventricular septum. Inside of the interventricular septum, we have the myocardium. It can be confusing because myocardium is the muscle, which is the layer, and the interventricular septum is the actual structure. Similarly, in the atria, we have the wall separating the two called the interatrial septum, which you can see right there, as well as right there.
Now that Charlie has shown you the structures of a heart on a model, I have 4 specimens, all from an anterior view, to show you the structures as well. On this heart, if we tilt it backwards, the top of the heart has been cut off, and we can see into the 2 atria. This space right here is the right atrium, and this is the left atrium. With this wall separating the two is the interatrial septum. This heart has been cut up all along, straight up the middle, so that we can see into the right atrium, the left atrium, the right ventricle, and the left ventricle. These crisscross bars on the inside are going to be the trabeculae carneae, and this dividing the 2 ventricles is the interventricular septum, with the myocardium muscle layer, and then everything covering the trabeculae carneae and the insides of the ventricles and atria is endocardium. On this heart, you can see several structures that are attached to the atria. This ear-like structure right here is going to be your right auricle, and this one is going to be your left auricle. Inside the auricles, if you pull them back, are going to be these tissues in here called pectinate. On this structure, you can also see your right ventricle in here and right atria. And on this specimen, you can see your left ventricle and right ventricle.
Now that we've become familiar with the chambers and layers of the heart, let's watch how these structures develop into the adult heart that Charlie reviewed with you. Through a process called gastrulation, the 3 primary germ layers develop from the blastula into a trilaminar structure called the gastrula. These 3 layers are known as the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Our primary focus in this video is on the mesoderm. The mesoderm further differentiates into 3 tissue types, each which correlate to a specific layer of the heart. The mesothelium is the precursor to the epicardium. The myocardium becomes the myocardium, and the endothelium becomes cardiac vessels and the endocardium. The endocardial tubes are paired regions in the mesoderm that appear in the ventral pole by the middle of the 3rd week of gestation. As folding of the embryo in the horizontal plane initiates in the 4th week of gestation, the endocardial tubes meet in the midline to form the primitive heart tube, which will eventually develop into the adult heart. Let's see the endocardial tube fusion from a different perspective. As the tubes fuse, we begin to recognize primitive chambers within the heart. Contrary to the adult derivative, the atrial chambers are on the posterior side of the heart tube, with the ventricular chambers being more superior. As the heart begins to fold, the atrial tube folds in the superior caudal and anatomical left direction, while the ventricular tube folds in the inferior ventral and anatomical right direction. The resulting structure resembles the adult heart, with the primitive atrial chamber superior to the primitive ventricular chamber. As the heart further differentiates, the atrial and ventricular chambers will be split into distinct right and left chambers by the development of the interatrial and interventricular septum respectively. We now move to the posterior portion of the heart to view the development of the venous pathways of the heart. The primitive caval veins fuse and migrate to form a cavity-like structure on the posterior side of the heart called the coronary sinus. This sinus will articulate with the superior and inferior vena cava, the primary source of blood flow back to the heart.
Now that we've finished going over all of the different structures and chambers of the heart, we hope that you'll be able to take this knowledge and apply it while you're learning in lab.